So now we're in the first room that you attacked when you were building your model railroad. This was the old computer room.
This was the old computer room, that's correct. I started building in this room.
And what's its size roughly?
It's 10 by 11.
Okay, so it's a bedroom size in a way, right?
Yeah, sort of.
And what I can see just by looking around the room here, that it is built as sort of as a shelving system around the ends, except for the door, obviously.
That's correct.
Okay, so what sort of went into the construction of the shelving?
The shelving is a steel construction from the steel, what do you call them?
Framing?
Yeah, for the steel walls that they use in the house building.
Oh, okay, the new ones that they use, that they replaced 2x4 with.
That's correct.
Okay.
So that's what they used.
And what made you decide to go that way?
Well, two things. One, I found that it was much lighter and easier to handle the wood. You don't have dust when you're sawing and stuff like that from it. So, and with the steel, it was easy enough for one person just to pair of tin snips and just snip away, cut the pieces to place, and form it to my purposes.
Right.
The fitting of it was easier than cutting and fitting the wood.
Right.
Because with the wood, you get all the angles. On the steel, you have the opportunity to be a little more flexible with it, with your joints, and still make it work well. It's lightweight, which is another thing I was looking for. I didn't want a lot of heavy weight in here. So
you had box frames basically that you built, and you installed them against the wall?
What I did was I put the U-channel around on the wall.
Right.
So like the framing comes with the U-channels and the studs.
Right.
So I used U-channel only. I used very little of the studs. So I put the U-channel around on the wall, making sure it was absolutely level.
Yes.
That was the hard part, making sure that the reference points and the building of it gave me a level playing field. And then coming out from the wall, then I would build segments of framing channel supported by temporary legs.
Okay, so when you eventually put the permanent legs in, what were they made of?
They're steel again. Okay. And they go down at an angle to the baseboard.
So it's not really a leg so much, so you can't trip on it. It's more of an angled support.
It's an angled support coming up from the baseboard up to the edge of the decking. That gives you the triangular strength needed to support it. I doubled up the U-channel on the legs so that they don't flex. And that gave me the support that I needed. On top of the framing, I put 9mm plywood.
Ah, okay.
So that I had something to screw to.
Yes. Now, how did you attach that?
To screw it down.
You just screwed it into the metal frame, just like you would in a house, putting the gyprock on.
Exactly. You have to screw up through the framing into the plywood. Okay. That gave me a surface that I could mount electronics onto, tie cables to, whatever is needed underneath, rather than going straight to the foam, because above that I have layers of foam that gives me my elevation variation for the layout. Okay, I'm going to have a look at that. So here I am underneath the layout, and as you can see, over here we got the channel against the wall, and the framing coming out, all steel along the edge, and the white piece that you see up at the top with the electronics, that's the plywood. And now you can see the support that goes down against the wall. And that's bolted, I guess, right into your 2x4 in behind the wood there. That's correct. Yeah. It's very neat and tidy. Where did you get this idea from? I'm not sure. It came out of your thought patterns. You say, well, I'm going to do it this way. So what I see here, this is one end of your line here. This is a dog bone loop that comes back on itself. I wouldn't describe it as a dog bone. This particular track is a turnaround track. It's a teardrop. A suggestion that my wife made at one point. She said, before I had the rest of the layout building, I had no way to turn around my train. Right. So she said, well, you need to do something here to turn around in this room. So we added this track in. The rest of this is just a loop back It allows me to get over to here.
Well, that, in the model railroading world, that's a dog bone because of the shape of it.
One end of it. No.
That's just one end.
Yeah,
that's correct. Yeah, it's one end of the dog bone loop. I see that in addition to that, it also geographically represents the eastern end of your railroad. The Hinton area.
This is Hinton, but the Edson is still east of Hinton, and that's over here.
Oh, okay.
And then the terminal point was Edmonton, and that's in my staging area.
Okay, so when you're leaving town, actually, and you're doing your work on the east end of the layout, it's located in this area, on this side of the room. So a train would basically depart from this yard here.
Yes.
Which is which yard again?
This is the Edson yard.
Okay, so
westbound goes this way.
Okay, westbound would go that way. It goes around the loop and that's the dog bone part, and comes back, and now is heading west.
It's heading west and goes through the Broten tunnel.
The Broten tunnel.
Yes.
Okay, so this is a vignette of an actual location on the line then.
That is correct, yes.
Now I noticed in the background there too, there's some painted backdrop. Of course I'm going to be guilty of admitting that I did it, but more importantly I can see that there was a specific design intended here that looks at the valley that runs up to Jasper.
That's correct.
Yeah, so if you were driving on Highway 1 heading for Jasper, you would see that sharp mountain on the left and the Athabasca River, I guess, going up through the middle.
Yes.
And into the Jasper area where Whistler Mountain is, etc., etc. Yeah, so there are elements here to help situate what you're trying to achieve.
Correct. Yes, there are.
Yeah.
The far track on this side is the coal branch.
Which branch? I'm sorry?
The coal branch.
Coal branch. Okay, I can see coal cars.
It's a branch line that runs from the track just east of Edson, southwest, towards Lusker and Catamount and Mountain Park, which were all coal mining areas that supplied a lot of the coal that the CNR burned at that time.
On the railroad,
On the railroad.
And over here I see that there's some more structures that were built with it.
Yes.
Did your wife do those as well?
Those are these are the structures that will represent the ice house and the creamery.
Right.
And I've got another area in here where I've got a freight repository, whether it's a freight house or a business where they manufacture stuff is yet to be evolved. But I've also got a cattle yard.
Yes, well that's very western, isn't it?
Very western. The cattle was moving all the time, and you had to stop and take them off the train. And
so this is what generates the income for the railroad is the cattle and the coal. And
cattle, the coal.
Yeah.
Moving lumber.
Yeah.
It was very resource centered.
Yes.
A lot of material was through travel material through that part of the track. You would have minerals that would originate in the mountains in BC that would travel through down to Edmonton and go south down to the smelters that were south of us. You would have freight coming in from the east that are from east as in the Orient.
Right.
Would enter in through Vancouver. You would have bales of silk and stuff that were on their way to the textile mills in Western North America. That all traveled through Edmonton.
So it would run through your line.
That's right. So it would be running through my line.
So in the concept of your railroad, there was some local traffic, obviously, that generated industry, but there was also stuff that was coming through from Vancouver to to the east, to Chicago, and to
and manufactured goods from east. From the eastern USA was traveling west out
to get onto ships.
Ships to head out, or to go up to the Yukon, or to the mining fields up in Alaska, or whatever. I mean, there's traffic going constantly in both directions. So there's a lot of through traffic, and as a result, there was a lot of local traffic spinning off from that. There was people living along the tracks, towns coming up, farmers, industry starting. So you would be dealing with loads of materials coming and going.
And the world was changing too. I mean, at that time, and prior to that period, there was an awful lot of passenger traffic, but it had been reduced quite a bit by this time frame, I would imagine.
Actually, by 1956, the passenger traffic was still pretty heavy.
Was it? Oh, okay.
Yes. The Jasper station and the resort area that was built up around Jasper was built as a tourist attraction, and they used to bring carloads of tourists up from the States.
So you would need passenger trains then, obviously.
There was actually 4 passenger trains running in 1956, 2 in each direction each day.
Oh, that's awesome. So let's move on down the line. What's our next stop?
Well, from the Edson room, we go to what I call the bridge room, which is the connection between the Edson room and the Jasper room. It goes off through the Broten tunnel, and we'll go visit that next.
Awesome.